I made 100 YouTube videos in 100 days, and from those 100 videos, I either learned or understood a few important things about YouTube. Each lesson either came from those 100 days or something I learned earlier in my life. But to understand how this journey started, we need to go back to when I was 12. Chapter 1. Credibility Matters. When I was around 12, I started uploading Minecraft videos to YouTube. They were terrible, completely unwatchable, but I always loved the idea of making videos. Back then, I watched a lot of YouTube, especially creators like Sunday. What stood out to me wasn't that his videos were just funny, it was that a lot of his videos were about building systems, focusing on efficiency, and trying to make things work as well as it possibly could inside of the game of Minecraft. And for some reason, I always really liked efficient systems. Watching creators like Sunday made me think maybe I could also be a YouTuber too. But if I'm being honest, I never really gave it a real shot until I was about 16. I started streaming a game called Darwin's Project. The game wasn't very big, but the community was extremely tight and everybody knew everybody. Because I streamed the game almost every day, I got incredibly good at it. I started playing in tournaments, I was considered around a top 15 player, and most days on Twitch, I had the most views in the category. For the time, it felt like I was actually becoming a creator even though the Twitch category wasn't very big. And people really started to notice. That's when I really started to understand that credibility actually mattered. Chapter 2. Environment Matters. I streamed that game for about 6 months, creating videos along the way. And during that time I realized something. Video creation is really hard to consistently do. So in 11th grade, I decided to go to trade school for audio and video production. Originally the plan was simple. I wanted to get better at making videos. So I took the class and I got a little bit unlucky. The audio and video production class ended up prioritizing audio way more than video. And before I knew it, I was completely hooked to music. And at first I absolutely loved it. It felt like I was learning an entirely new system. And in the first year, I did exceptionally well. I got a Pro Tools certificate, which normally students don't get until the end of their second year. And in my class actually, only one other student got it at the end of their second year. So I was really excited. But after my first year, something started to change. In the second year, I got a new teacher. And honestly, I basically didn't learn anything, and there were hardly any lessons, and nothing really pushed me forward to learn more systems. At the time, I always tried to stay optimistic. I told myself that, hey, maybe I was just ahead. So in year 3, I went to college thinking that I would finally start learning more about the technical side of music, but once again, my teacher wasn't that great. And by the 4th year, it was basically the same story. And at that point, I was just completely fed up. Normally, when students say the teacher was bad, I assume that the students just didn't pay attention. But honestly, I was really trying to learn music. And after years of being in that environment, I really thought I hated music. Eventually, retrospectively, I realized I didn't hate music. I just hated the environment and I just stopped learning about music. And the strangest part was I was surrounded by these quote-unquote professionals every day, but the environment around me wasn't helping me grow. And then eventually something kind of just clicked and I realized that I just need to get a change from this environment around me. And that's when I really started to realize that my environment actually mattered. Chapter 3. Time to Think Matters. While I was in school, I was working at McDonald's. And once I gave up on music, I obviously stopped going to school, and that's when I started working overtime almost every week. I was trying to move up the corporate ladder, trying to be responsible, and eventually everything just started feeling like the same. I would go to work, I would sleep, and I would repeat. I was getting really burnt out without realizing it, and then things at work started to change. Basically, long story short, my boss, who I was very close with, was forced to transfer, and the store was taken over by somebody new. Somebody who didn't really care about all the systems we built, and over the next 3 months, everything slowly started falling apart. And honestly, it was very slowly killing me. Because the worst part wasn't really the work didn't really change. It was watching something you spent years building just slowly fade away. The systems, the routines, the things that made the job fun and meaningful were just slowly devolving. Every week, it felt like just a little bit more of it disappeared. And there wasn't really anything I could do to stop it or help it. I actually got really badly sick. I got the flu. And normally when I'm sick, I'm super miserable and super grumpy. But this time was different. Because I was overworked And because I hated my job, I physically felt awful, but mentally felt really, really good. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't rushing somewhere. I wasn't thinking about work. I was just stuck at home. And suddenly, I had a lot of extra time. And at the time, I was already playing a lot of Balatro, so I figured I might as well just record it. And at the time, I barely knew how to use OBS. My editing was horrible. My audio was all over the place, but for some reason, I was really excited about it. And during those days I was sick, I batch recorded like 10 videos. Those videos ended up being the start of this channel, and looking back I realized something. For the first time in years, I actually had time to think, and that's when I learned my third lesson, that time to think actually matters. Output matters more than results. Finally, we have arrived to the YouTube channel. December 6, 2025 was the first video I uploaded. The videos I recorded when I had the flu ended up becoming the first batch of videos that I uploaded. The first 10 or so videos all came from that same stretch of time, and at the beginning, I constantly checked the views. I treated the views like a scoreboard, and something interesting happened. My third video actually popped off, and it got around 600 views, which at the time felt huge. For a moment, I thought I had it all figured out. I thought YouTube was easy. I thought all the systems were all together, and I already knew YouTube. But by the end of the week, the videos did not do nearly as well, and suddenly I started using the views like a scoreboard and I felt like a failure. Slowly I started realizing that if you constantly watch the numbers, you're going to ride an emotional roller coaster. One video you're going to feel like a genius, and the next video you don't, and everything's failing. Instead of focusing on results, I started focusing on the output, just to make better videos than the previous video. Better titles, better thumbnails, better editing, better ideas, and if you go back and watch those early videos, you can actually see it happening. Every week gets a little bit better, because the truth is, at the beginning, the results you get in a YouTube channel are just noise, but the output is something you can actually control. And that's when I learned my fourth lesson, that output actually matters more than results. I can't wait to make the next 100 videos.